The morning of May 21st, 2026, felt unreal. Before sunrise, NASCAR fans across America were already staring at their phones in disbelief. Notifications flooded social media. Group chats exploded. Television stations interrupted regular programming. And within minutes, one terrifying headline began spreading faster than anyone could process. Kyle Busch was gone. At first, people refused to believe it. Fans refreshed their screens over and over again, hoping it was another internet rumor. Some thought it had to be fake news. Others searched desperately for an official statement that would somehow deny the nightmare unfolding in real time. But then came the confirmation. The two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, one of the fiercest and most unforgettable drivers the sport had ever seen, had reportedly died at just 41 years old. And suddenly, the entire racing world went silent. At tracks across the country, crews stopped working just to stare at their phones. Radio hosts struggled to hold back emotion while reading the breaking news on air. Veteran NASCAR drivers posted black and white photos with broken heart emojis and emotional captions that barely seemed believable. Because to millions of fans, Kyle Busch didn't feel human. He felt unstoppable. For nearly 2 decades, people had watched him dominate NASCAR with a level of aggression, confidence, and raw talent that made him impossible to ignore. Whether fans loved him or hated him, everyone watched him. He became one of the winningest drivers in NASCAR history. A fearless competitor who never backed down from controversy, pressure, or pain. And that's what made the news so difficult to accept. Just days earlier, many fans still believed Kyle was preparing for more races, more appearances, more moments behind the wheel. No one imagined they were witnessing the final chapter of his life. As the hours passed, more heartbreaking details began emerging from Concord, North Carolina, near the famous Charlotte Motor Speedway. Reports revealed that Kyle Busch had been hospitalized after suffering from a severe illness. At first, only limited information was released. Fans prayed it was something temporary, something treatable. But behind the scenes, the situation was becoming critical. According to statements later confirmed by his family, Kyle had been battling severe pneumonia. And in a devastatingly short amount of time, the illness reportedly progressed into sepsis, triggering rapid medical complications that doctors could not stop. Those closest to him were left stunned by how quickly everything happened. One moment, he was still viewed as the tough, fearless racer fans had always known. The next, his family was preparing to say goodbye. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of all was that very few people knew how serious his condition had become. Fans online kept sharing old clips of Kyle smiling at racetracks, joking during interviews, and celebrating victories. Many couldn't comprehend how someone who had spent his entire life surviving violent crashes at 200 miles per hour could suddenly be taken away by illness. It felt cruel, unfair, almost impossible. As tributes poured in from around the world, the emotional impact stretched far beyond racing. Parents hugged their children tighter. Longtime fans openly cried during live streams. Thousands gathered outside speedways, leaving flowers, die-cast cars, candles, and handwritten messages. Some simply wrote, "Thank you, Kyle." Others couldn't even find words. But behind all the grief, another conversation slowly began emerging. A quieter one. Because as the shock of his death settled in, attention started turning towards something else Kyle Busch had left behind. Not just trophies. Not just memories. But an empire. Over the years, Kyle Busch had built far more than a racing career. He had created a fortune through championship winnings, sponsorship deals, businesses, luxury properties, merchandise, and investments connected to one of the biggest names in motorsports. People began asking questions almost immediately. How much had Kyle Busch truly earned? What would happen to his racing empire now? Who would inherit everything? And how would his wife, Samantha Busch, and their children carry the emotional weight of a legacy this enormous? Because those closest to Kyle knew something the public didn't fully understand yet. Behind the fame, behind the money, behind the trophies, was a man whose greatest pride was always his family. And what Kyle Busch left behind after his sudden death would soon leave even his own family in tears. In the days following Kyle Busch's heartbreaking death, the grief inside the NASCAR world only deepened. But behind closed doors, another reality was beginning to unfold. Because while millions of fans mourned the loss of a racing legend, Kyle's family was now facing something almost too overwhelming to process. The life he had built, the empire he had created, and the fortune he left behind. As tributes continued pouring in from around the world, financial experts and sports analysts began estimating the true scale of Kyle Busch's wealth. Over nearly 2 decades of racing dominance, he had reportedly earned tens of millions through NASCAR winnings alone. But racing was only part of the story. Kyle Busch had become more than a driver. He became a brand. Massive sponsorships followed him everywhere. Major companies competed to have their logos attached to one of NASCAR's biggest stars. Merchandise sales exploded for years. His name appeared on collectibles, apparel, commercials, interviews, gaming partnerships, and promotional campaigns across America. Even people who didn't watch NASCAR knew who Kyle Busch was. And over time, that fame transformed into something enormous. Luxury homes, private investments, car collections worth millions, business partnerships connected to racing and motorsports, ownership ventures, endorsement deals that continued generating income even when he wasn't on the track. By 2026, many insiders believed Kyle Busch had quietly built one of the most valuable personal empires in modern NASCAR history. But strangely, that's not what made fans emotional. It was discovering where so much of that fortune was actually meant to go. Because according to people close to the family, Kyle's greatest focus in recent years had shifted away from trophies and headlines. It became his wife and his children. Fans had watched his relationship with Samantha Busch evolve publicly for years. Through victories, controversies, setbacks, and personal struggles, Samantha remained beside him through every chapter of his career. And after Kyle's death was confirmed, many fans returned to old interviews that suddenly felt heartbreaking in hindsight. In one emotional clip shared repeatedly online, Kyle once admitted that racing gave him excitement, but family gave him purpose. Those words suddenly hit differently. Because now Samantha was left carrying the unimaginable weight of continuing life without him. Friends close to the family described the atmosphere after his passing as devastatingly quiet. The same home once filled with race schedules, media appearances, laughter, and celebrations suddenly became a place of mourning. And then came the heartbreaking realization. Kyle Busch would never walk through those doors again. Not after another race. Not after another championship. Not after another comeback. Gone. At just 41 years old. As fans gathered outside racetracks holding candles and handwritten signs, emotional stories about Kyle began resurfacing online. Some remembered his intensity on the track. Others remembered moments the cameras barely showed. The father quietly spending time with his children away from racing. The husband supporting Samantha through difficult moments in their lives. The man who, despite his aggressive public image, reportedly cared deeply about the people closest to him. That contrast made everything even sadder. Because for years, Kyle Busch had often been portrayed as NASCAR's villain, confident, unapologetic, brutally competitive. But after his death, people began seeing the human being underneath the helmet. And as details surrounding his estate slowly emerged, another emotional truth became impossible to ignore. Kyle hadn't just built wealth. He built security for the people he loved most. Industry insiders began speculating that his fortune included multiple luxury properties across the United States, valuable racing memorabilia, ownership stakes connected to motorsports businesses, and a massive portfolio tied to endorsements and investments accumulated throughout his career. His collection of high-performance vehicles alone reportedly stunned even longtime fans. But for Samantha and the children, none of it could replace him. That became painfully clear during the emotional memorial tributes that followed his passing. Former drivers struggled to speak through tears during interviews. Some recalled fierce rivalries with Kyle that eventually transformed into respect. Others admitted they never imagined NASCAR without him. Because whether people cheered for him or against him, Kyle Busch was part of the identity of modern racing itself. At several speedways, fans created makeshift memorials that stretched for hundreds of feet. Flowers, flags, toy race cars, photos from unforgettable victories, handwritten letters from adults who had grown up watching him race since childhood. And among those memorials, one message appeared again and again. He gave everything to this sport. But perhaps the most emotional reactions came from parents introducing NASCAR to their own children. Many shared stories online explaining how Kyle Busch had been part of family traditions for years. Sunday races with grandparents. Weekend road trips to speedways. Memories passed from one generation to another. For them, Kyle wasn't just a driver. He represented time itself. A chapter of life they suddenly realized was over forever. Meanwhile, television networks began replaying some of the most iconic moments of his career. Dramatic wins, emotional interviews, explosive rivalries, unforgettable celebrations. And each clip now carried a completely different feeling. What once looked like confidence, now looked like legacy. What once looked like ambition, now looked like a man racing against time without knowing it. Even veteran sports commentators admitted they underestimated how deeply Kyle Busch's death would affect people emotionally. Because his story wasn't just about racing. It became a reminder of how fragile life truly is. A man who survived violent crashes at terrifying speeds, ultimately lost to severe pneumonia and sepsis after rapid complications no one expected. That reality shook people deeply, especially fans who believed athletes like Kyle Busch were somehow invincible. But while the public mourned the legend, Samantha and the children faced a much quieter pain. The private moments. The empty chair at dinner. The silence after the cameras disappeared. The realization that every future milestone would now happen without Kyle beside them. And according to those close to the family, it was during those private moments that the true emotional weight of Kyle Busch's fortune became clear. Because every trophy, every car, every business deal, every dollar he earned, now carried memories attached to the man who built it all. A husband, a father, a champion, a legend. And soon, as discussions about Kyle Busch's final wishes and the future of his massive legacy intensified, even more emotional revelations would begin leaving fans completely speechless. By the end of May 2026, it no longer felt like NASCAR was mourning just a driver. It felt like an entire era had died. For days, the loss of Kyle Busch dominated television broadcasts, sports radio, social media, and conversations happening far beyond the world of racing. Fans who had once argued passionately about him online were now united in grief. Because death has a way of stripping away rivalry. And suddenly, all people could see was the human being underneath the helmet. As preparations began for memorial services honoring Kyle Busch, thousands of fans traveled from across the country just to stand outside speedways and pay tribute. Some drove for hours carrying old race tickets and faded Kyle Busch merchandise from years ago. Others brought their children. Children who had grown up watching Kyle race every Sunday. Children who never imagined they would have to say goodbye to one of NASCAR's biggest legends this soon. Outside memorial locations, silence often replaced conversation. Strangers hugged each other without even knowing names. Grown men openly cried while staring at giant screens replaying Kyle's career highlights. And perhaps the most heartbreaking moments came whenever footage of his family appeared. Especially Samantha Busch. Fans watching from home could see the exhaustion and heartbreak written across her face. The woman who had stood beside Kyle through championships, controversies, injuries, and endless pressure was now facing cameras without him for the very first time. And people immediately noticed something devastating. She looked completely shattered. According to those close to the family, Samantha spent many of those early days trying to stay strong for the children while privately struggling with unimaginable grief herself. Because while the world saw headlines about fortunes and legacies, she saw the empty side of the bed. The unfinished conversations. The future they were supposed to grow old into together. That reality hit millions of viewers hard during one emotional public statement in which Samantha reportedly thanked fans for their love and support while describing Kyle as not just a racing icon, but an incredible father and husband. For many fans, that was the moment everything truly became real. Kyle Busch was never coming back. And suddenly, old NASCAR clips that once felt exciting became painful to watch. His victory celebrations. His interviews. The way he laughed with his children in family videos. the confidence in his voice whenever he talked about the future. It all transformed into memories. And the deeper people looked into Kyle's life after his death, the more emotional the story became. Because despite his fame, wealth, and intense public image, many people close to him reportedly described a man who had changed significantly in recent years. Fatherhood softened parts of him fans rarely saw publicly. Friends said his priorities had slowly shifted away from proving himself and toward protecting the people he loved most. That's why discussions surrounding his estate became so emotional.
Not because of greed. Not because of drama.
But because every part of Kyle Busch's fortune carried pieces of his life attached to it. The homes he purchased for family vacations. The cars connected to personal memories. The businesses he hoped would support his family long into the future. The investments designed to protect his children even after he was gone. For Samantha and the children, these were no longer just valuable assets. They became reminders. Painful reminders. And as more details about his final days emerged, fans became even more devastated by how quickly everything happened. Reports stated that Kyle had been hospitalized near Charlotte Motor Speedway after battling severe illness. His condition reportedly worsened rapidly as pneumonia progressed into sepsis, leading to complications doctors could not control. Many fans simply couldn't process how someone so energetic and physically strong could disappear so suddenly. That shock created an emotional wave unlike anything NASCAR had experienced in years. Even longtime sports journalists admitted the reaction felt different from previous celebrity losses. Because Kyle Busch had always seemed larger than life.
Untouchable.
The driver who survived chaos for a living. And maybe that's why his death hurt people so deeply. It reminded everyone that no amount of fame, money, success, or strength can fully protect someone from how fragile life truly is. During tribute broadcasts, fellow drivers struggled to speak through emotion. Some recalled bitter rivalries that turned into friendships over time. Others admitted Kyle pushed them harder than anyone else on the track.
He made NASCAR more intense, more emotional, more unforgettable.
Without him, something felt missing. At one memorial event, fans reportedly began chanting Kyle's name together while holding candles in the dark. Videos of the moment spread online almost instantly. Millions watched. Millions cried. Because in that moment, it wasn't about championships anymore. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about racing. It was about loss. A massive, painful loss shared by strangers connected through years of memories. And yet, amid all the sadness, another feeling slowly began emerging. Gratitude. People started realizing how much Kyle Busch had given to the sport itself. The unforgettable finishes. The rivalries.
The confidence. The passion.
The moments fans would replay forever. Even those who once criticized him admitted NASCAR would never feel the same again. Because legends like Kyle Busch don't simply disappear when they die. They leave fingerprints on generations. And perhaps that became the true meaning behind the fortune he left behind. Yes, there was money. Millions of dollars.
Properties. Cars. Businesses. Trophies.
But the real fortune was something far greater. It was the memories he created with fans. The impact he left on racing. The love he gave his family. And the legacy his children will carry for the rest of their lives. Days after his death, fans continued leaving flowers outside racetracks long after cameras stopped filming. Some families even turned old Kyle Busch race days into personal traditions of remembrance. Parents told stories about watching races together. Friends shared emotional photos from NASCAR events they attended years earlier. And countless fans admitted something heartbreaking. They never thought they would miss Kyle Busch this much. Because sometimes, people only realize how deeply someone mattered after they're gone. Now, every future NASCAR season will carry a strange emptiness. Every conversation about the greatest drivers in history will include his name. Every young racer chasing greatness will eventually hear stories about the fearless driver who changed modern NASCAR forever. And somewhere beyond the headlines, beyond the fame, beyond the fortune, a wife still mourns her husband. Children still miss their father. And millions of fans still struggle to believe the man they watched for decades is truly gone. But one thing is certain. Kyle Busch may have left this world at just 41 years old. Yet the legacy he left behind may never fade away. If this video touched your heart, take a moment to honor the legacy of Kyle Busch by leaving a like on this video. And if you grew up watching Kyle race, if his unforgettable moments, victories, and passion meant something to you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another emotional video like this. Also, let us know in the comments. What is your favorite Kyle Busch memory? Rest in peace, Kyle Busch, a racing legend gone far too soon.